Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my favorite fantasy romance books that do not feature fae. Alright guys, so let me start by saying I love a good fae romance. ACOTAR by Sarah J. Maas is my all-time favorite fantasy romance series, and the main characters are fae. However, my friend Becky from Bex Reads challenged me to try to find fantasy romance books that did not feature fae, and originally I thought this was going to be pretty easy. However, when I tried putting this list together, it was really difficult. So for the most part, a lot of fantasy romance does heavily rely on fae as the main characters. So I have a list of books that all still have that like whimsical fantasy romance feel, but don't feature fae. Now this is a collab with Becky, so definitely check out her video. I will have it linked down below in the description. And if you are unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these fantasy romance books. So starting off, since this is a collab with Bex Reads, I figured we would talk about our buddy read, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It is Entreat Me by Draven. I really enjoyed this book. We are following these two sisters. Now, the younger sister is about to be married off to this deplorable man in order to pay off her father's debts, and she just does not want to do this. So she ends up running away with this young man she has just met to this kind of like decrepit gothic castle. Now, her older sister, Llewellyn, is very worried about her sister's reputation and ends up running after her. And when she gets there, she finds out that this castle is not only kind of scary on the outside, but it's actually frozen in time. And the two men, a son and a father living there, are cursed. So it's almost like a double romance. You definitely get two romances in one. But I loved that the story still had nods to the original Beauty and the Beast cartoon, but still felt entirely unique. And this was just the perfect amount of romance and action and spice, and I really enjoyed it, so highly recommend if you are looking for a fantasy romance. And next up we have one of my favorite Why Choose romances, and that is Broken Bonds by Bree. This is the first book in the Bonds That Tie series. So I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I was like skimming this book. I'm almost positive they never refer to themselves as fae. They are just beings that have unique powers. So if you are unfamiliar with the Bonds That Tie series, we are following Ollie. And in Ollie's world, there are bonded. So at the beginning of the story, Ollie is with her mother and her mother's three bonded. And bonded are like your partners. And by being bonded, you're able to almost enhance your partner's power. So Ollie is driving along with her mom, her bonded. The car ends up crashing, exploding, and everyone dies. This is not a spoiler. It happens very early in the first chapter. And instead of Ollie going back to the people who will eventually be her bonded mates, Ollie ends up fleeing for her life and runs away. Now, her bonded are very upset by this and end up looking for her, eventually finding her and bringing her back. So this first book is really almost like a bully romance, and we're trying to find out Ollie's motivations for running away from her bonded. And I absolutely love this series so much. There is so much action. And typically when we have Why Choose romances, I normally only like one or two of the characters or the love interest, and the rest I really don't care about. I love every single love interest in this book. Mostly Nox and North, but I love them all. So definitely check this series out. It is one of my absolute favorite Why Choose romance series. And next up, of course, I had to include From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. If you're familiar with my channel, you've already heard me rave about the series. This is the first book in the From Blood and Ash series. There's also a prequel series, the Flesh and Fire series, which I also highly recommend. So this first book is following Poppy, and Poppy is known as the Maiden. She has been raised in isolation where no one is allowed to speak to her or touch her except for her personal guard and a few friends. Now, Poppy is getting ready for her ascension. She doesn't know what this means, she just knows it's a very big event, and we're getting very close to that event when Poppy decides she is gonna sneak out one day in disguise and have a little fun. So she ends up going to this tavern where she meets Hawk. Now, Hawk is the newest member of the Rise Guard, and he eventually becomes her personal guard, and it is their story and I am obsessed with this series. It is one of my absolute favorite series of all time. It has werewolves, it has vampires, it has slow burn angst, and it's just so good. So highly recommend. Like I said, one of my favorite fantasy romances and so addicting. So this next book, I'm actually not a huge fan of, but I know a lot of people that really love it, so I wanted to include it on this list. And that is A Ruin of Roses by K.F. Breene. So instead of Fae, we are following shifters, and these shifters are cursed. So these shifters are dying at a very young age, and the only way to kind of slow down this aging process is to give them a medicine that is created by these roses. But these roses only grow in like a forbidden forest type setting. So our main character one day goes to collect these roses, and she ends up being taken by this beast, and this beast brings her back to a castle that is full of demons, and it is their story, Beauty and the Beast retelling. The only reason I wasn't a huge fan of this is I feel like the spicy scenes are very crudely written, and also the humor, while sometimes was funny, it just seemed inappropriate at times. I don't know. So, like I said, I did not finish this series. However, a lot of people I know have really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a different take on Beauty and the Beast, definitely check out A Ruin of Roses. And next up we have A Deal with the Elf King, and this is by Elise Kova. So this is following Luella, and in Luella's world, there is a elf king that comes and selects a human queen every 100 years, and that human queen is never seen again. So Luella has grown up studying medicine, and she's kind of like the town's medic, so she is very shocked when the elf king comes and claims her as his human queen. So Luella ends up going back to like the elven world and realizes fairly quickly that when she sits upon the queen's throne, all of her magic and life force is drained from her, and that is really what is like powering the world. So Luella and the Elf King decide they're going to work together to try to figure out a better power source, and it is their romance. So it's kind of like enemies to lovers. I did read this in one sitting. I enjoyed it. I just wish the romance was a little bit more fleshed out. But if you want a really fast-paced, good story, fantasy romance, I would definitely check out Deal with the Elf King. All right, and this next book has been gaining so much popularity, and it is Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I've only read the first book, so if in later books we realize that Fae are involved, I don't know about it. So for this first book, we are following Tasada, and she is a slave. She is purchased to do performative magic, where she's hoping to eventually save up enough money to buy her freedom. Now, when she finally does earn enough money, she goes to her master, tries to buy her freedom, and things don't go as planned. Luckily, Tasana is able to escape, and she goes to this order of magic users and asks for their help in freeing her people. Now, they say they can't help her until she's able to join their ranks, so she ends up training under who I can only really describe as General Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist. He is just this kind of like grumpy, stoic character, but you know, he has like a good heart. So she ends up training under him. Eventually she is put into this order, and it's that story, and it kind of goes from there. I will say the romance in this was so slow burn. It's also friends to lovers, which is one of my least favorite tropes. However, the world building in this is so good. I felt completely immersed in this world, and I do eventually plan on continuing with the series. I just feel like I have so many books I need to finish that this is probably going to get pushed off until February. However, this book is very beloved right now, so definitely check it out if you're a fan of fantasy romance. And this also kind of gave me similar vibes to like ACOTAR, ACOWAR, things of that nature. So definitely check it out. And last up, we have a dark fantasy romance, emphasis on dark, and that is King of Flesh and Bone. And this is following our main character. She lives in a world where the dead do not rot. Instead, they reanimate and pretty much plague the living people. So people have resorted to putting like cement blocks and other things on these graves to stop the dead from just wandering around. They're also praying to the King of Flesh and Bone to stop this. However, their prayers are not answered. So our main character ends up being dragged into the land of the dead by a dead donkey or horse, and she comes face to face with the King of Flesh and Bone. Now, humans are not supposed to be in the land of the dead. However, the King of Flesh and Bone is very interested in this human girl, ends up saving her and making her his personal, like, sexual pet, and it goes from there. Now, I will say, super dark. Also, our love interest never really turns good. He's pretty deplorable the entire book. We're really just seeing our main character slowly become evil. However, I did enjoy this duology, at least enough to finish it. And yeah, our love interest is just kind of the worst. He breaks the main character's legs twice, never apologizes. She's trying to escape him and he just kind of does it and was like, well, if you didn't try to run away, I wouldn't have broken your legs, so your fault. So anyway, I did enjoy this duology, and if you're looking for like a super dark, spicy fantasy, check out King of Flesh and Bone. Alright guys, those are all of my favorite fantasy romance books that do not involve fae. Definitely check out Becky's video. Like I said, I will have it linked down in the description below. And also leave a comment and tell me what is your favorite fantasy romance book that does not feature any fae. And I said this already, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!